Think about the last time you had a brutal week at work. Your boss was demanding, the deadlines were impossible, and by Friday evening, you were completely and utterly exhausted. You felt a deep physical depletion in your nervous system. So you decided to treat yourself. You ordered the expensive takeout. You bought the luxury watch online. You booked the premium vacation. You told yourself you earned it. You told yourself it was a justifiable reward for your suffering. You are lying to yourself. You did not buy a reward. You bought a temporary anesthetic. And that exact psychological transaction is why you are permanently broke. Society conditions you to believe that spending money to soothe your emotional stress is normal. They call it retail therapy. They call it self-care. That is a deliberate illusion designed to keep you functioning as a highly predictable, highly profitable biological machine. In the next few minutes, we are going to dismantle the dark psychology of emotional spending. We will expose the mathematical trap of the "I earned it" mentality, and we will reveal why using your salary to cope with your reality guarantees that you will never escape the system. You will understand the brutal neurochemistry of financial exhaustion. You will learn how corporations weaponize your fatigue, why your desire for comfort is your greatest vulnerability, and how the top 1% build cold, emotionless systems to protect their capital from their own biology. By the end of this breakdown, you will realize that every time you spend money to numb your stress, you are actively financing your own cage. You are a highly paid hostage. Let us break the illusion. We must start by diagnosing the core biological failure of the modern worker, the stress spending cycle. Most people assume that financial problems stem from a lack of income. This is mathematically false. The highest rates of emotional spending occur in individuals earning between $80,000 and $250,000 a year. The problem is not the size of the paycheck. The problem is the psychological toll required to earn it. When you work 50, 60, or 70 hours a week in a high-pressure corporate environment, you are operating in a state of chronic cortisol elevation. Your brain is constantly fighting perceived threats. By the time you receive your paycheck, your prefrontal cortex, the logical, rational, calculating part of your brain, is completely depleted. You are experiencing what clinical psychologists call ego depletion. Your willpower is literally exhausted. In this state of extreme mental fatigue, you do not have the cognitive bandwidth to delay gratification. You do not have the energy to comparison shop, to cook your own meals, or to calculate the compound interest you are losing by not investing. Your primitive amygdala takes over and it demands immediate relief. It demands comfort. It demands a dopamine spike to counteract the crushing weight of the cortisol. So, you order the $40 food delivery instead of cooking the $5 meal in your fridge. You buy the expensive clothing to feel a momentary surge of status. You pay for absolute convenience because you feel you have no time left. This is soothing spending. You are not buying a product. You are buying a chemical release valve. You are paying a premium to briefly forget how much you hate the process of earning the money in the first place. Here is the darkest part of the math. When you use your capital to soothe the stress of your job, you create a perfectly closed, inescapable loop. You work incredibly hard, you generate stress, you spend your money to alleviate that stress, and as a result, your bank account empties. Because your bank account is empty, you are entirely dependent on the next paycheck. Therefore, you must return to the exact same high-stress environment on Monday morning. You are running on a treadmill that you plugged in yourself. The corporate system does not need to chain you to your desk. They just need to ensure that your coping mechanisms are expensive enough to consume your entire net worth. This is the ultimate high-income poverty trap. You can make $500,000 a year, but if your psychological baseline requires $490,000 of luxury consumption just to keep you sane, you are statistically identical to someone living minimum wage. You have zero leverage. You have zero autonomy. If your boss yells at you, you have to take it. If the company demands you cancel your weekend, you have to comply. Because if the paycheck stops, the anesthesia stops, and you will be forced to face the horrifying reality of your financial fragility. The system wants you exhausted. Exhaustion is highly profitable. Let us examine the weaponization of convenience. The modern economy is meticulously optimized to separate tired people from their capital. Look at the architecture of digital consumption: one-click purchasing, saved credit card details, subscription boxes, food delivered to your door in under 20 minutes. They market this to you as a luxury. They tell you that you are buying back your time. That is a predatory lie. You are not buying back your time. You are surrendering your awareness. When you remove friction from the spending process, you remove conscious thought. When you are tired, friction is your only natural defense mechanism. If you had to physically walk to a bank, withdraw cash, walk to a restaurant, and hand the paper money to a cashier, you would evaluate the transaction. your brain would process the loss of resources. But when the transaction is invisible, when it happens via facial recognition on a glowing piece of glass while you lie exhausted in bed, the pain of paying is entirely deleted. The system has hacked your neurochemistry. They have removed the psychological brake pedal. You justify it by saying, I worked too hard to worry about $20. But it is never just $20. It is $20 5 times a week, compounded over 40 years. You are bleeding out from 1,000 invisible cuts. You are sacrificing millions of dollars in future generational wealth simply because you were too tired to say no to your own impulses. Your ego is the enemy of your empire. This brings us to the most painful truth of all. The reason you cannot stop emotionally spending is that your ego is actively defending your bad decisions. This is the phenomenon of pent-up deferred gratification. When you spend your entire week doing things you do not want to do, taking orders from people you do not respect, you feel a deep loss of control. You feel stripped of your power. Purchasing luxury goods is a subconscious attempt to reclaim that power. When you walk into an expensive store and swipe a heavy metal credit card, for 5 brief minutes you feel like the master of your universe. The employees treat you with respect. The packaging is immaculate. You feel important. But it is a synthetic, engineered importance. It is a manufactured status that evaporates the moment you leave the store. The system sells you the illusion of wealth to prevent you from building the reality of wealth. If you truly want to reclaim your power, you must completely destroy this ego-driven narrative. The individual driving the 10-year-old car, wearing plain clothes and quietly shoveling 60% of their income into index funds is infinitely more powerful than the executive drowning in lease payments and credit card debt. The individual with the index funds has optionality. The executive is a hostage. You must separate your identity from your consumption. Just because you have a prestigious title does not mean you are legally obligated to finance a luxury lifestyle. The moment you stop caring about looking rich, you unlock the mathematical ability to actually become rich. Discipline is for amateurs. The elite use architecture. You cannot fight emotional spending with willpower. I will repeat that because it is the most critical concept in wealth psychology. You cannot fight biology with discipline. When you are tired, hungry, and stressed, your willpower drops to absolute zero. If your financial survival depends on making the right choice at 8:30 p.m. on a Friday after a 60-hour work week, you will fail. The top 1%, the architects of wealth, do not rely on being stronger than you. They rely on being smarter. They build cold, automated systems that completely bypass human emotion. They practice structural allocation. The exact second capital enters their ecosystem, it is violently redirected by automated software. Before they even wake up on payday, 50% of their income is instantly transferred into brokerage accounts, real estate funds, and high-yield savings. They never see the money. It never sits in their checking account waiting to be emotionally spent. They artificially induce scarcity in their own lives. If you look at the checking account of a true wealth architect, it often looks completely broke. There is only enough money left to cover the fixed baseline survival expenses. By the time they feel the emotional urge to buy a luxury watch or book an expensive trip to soothe their stress, the money is already gone. It is locked away in assets that are actively reproducing. They do not have to fight the urge to spend because the machine already made the decision for them. They have replaced the fragility of human emotion with the unbreakable logic of a financial system. You must introduce predatory friction. If automation is your offense, friction is your defense. The system is designed to make spending seamless. You must deliberately break the design. You must make it incredibly annoying to spend your own money. Delete your saved credit card information from every single website and application on your phone. Force yourself to physically stand up, find your wallet, pull out the card, and manually type the 16 digits every single time you want to make an online purchase. Implement a mandatory 72-hour waiting period for any purchase over $100. When you feel the biological urge to buy something, write it down on a physical piece of paper and walk away. Do not negotiate. Do not justify. Just wait. 95% of the time, the emotional spike will collapse within 3 days. You will realize that you did not actually want the object. You simply wanted the dopamine hit of the transaction. You will look at the item 3 days later and feel absolutely nothing. By inserting a wedge of time between the stimulus and the response, you regain your cognitive sovereignty. You starve the emotional impulse. The ultimate metric of wealth is not dollars, it is time. We need to completely rewire how you calculate value. Right now, when you look at a luxury item, you look at the price tag, you see $1,000. That is the wrong metric. Dollars are infinite. Governments print them every day. You must start pricing your consumption in the only finite currency that exists in the universe, your time. Calculate your true hourly wage. Take your salary, subtract your taxes, subtract your commuting costs, and divide it by the actual number of hours you dedicate to your job. If you make $100,000 a year, your true hourly wage might be $30 an hour. Now look at that $1,000 luxury item. It does not cost $1,000. It costs 33 hours of your life. It costs almost an entire week of waking up early, dealing with corporate politics, enduring traffic, and sacrificing time with your family. When you ask yourself, do I want to spend $1,000? Your ego will say yes. When you ask yourself, is this piece of metal worth surrendering a week of my actual life? Your logic will wake up. You will realize that emotional spending is the equivalent of burning your own lifespan to impress people who do not care about you. Stop coping, start building. You are standing at a critical psychological crossroads. You can close this video, go back to your routine, and continue using your hard-earned capital to anesthetize the pain of a life you do not fully control. You can keep buying synthetic status, running on the hedonic treadmill, and pretending that looking rich is the same thing as being free. Or you can step out of the illusion. You can acknowledge the painful truth that your coping mechanisms are the exact chains holding you down. You can murder your ego. You can freeze your lifestyle, automate your investments, and build the cold, hard architecture that guarantees your future sovereignty. The system wants you exhausted, emotional, and impulsive. It is incredibly profitable when you are weak. Disappoint them. Starve the consumer matrix. Stop buying temporary relief and start buying permanent leverage. If you want to master the true clinical psychology of money and learn the exact frameworks the elite use to protect their wealth from their own biology, subscribe to this channel. The masses are reacting to their emotions. You must become the architect of your reality. Check the links in the description to arm yourself with the tools of absolute financial defense. Stop surviving your paycheck. Start building your empire.